Let me show you this really quickly. This is Eastern Presbyterian Church, okay? This is where I used to go to church. I went there for 32 years, and then a large bulk of those years, and some of you are familiar, you've been in there, right? And the chapel looks like this. It holds about 700 people or so. One day, I was preaching at this chapel. It didn't have 700 people. About 200 people or so were in this chapel. And it's a pretty large chapel. Take a look at it. It's very beautiful. I don't know, Joe, when you're sitting in there, what do you think about? You know what I thought about? And maybe you can relate. I imagine tying a rope to the top of this thing, right? And swinging from over here all the way over to that ledge right there. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, you can. Okay. Anyway, all right. So I get so distracted I can't even listen to the sermon because I'm imagining swinging from the. Anyway, all right. So I have a daughter who's very similar to me in many respects, maybe in that respect. But I was preaching, and as I am preaching, right there, I'm that tiny guy in front. I look over there and I see my daughter, Ruthie. She couldn't be more than 3 years old, and she's got her eyes on me. And I go, uh-oh. And she sees me and starts walking up the aisle. She starts walking all the way up the aisle. And to my horror, she comes and stands right here in front of me. And then she looks at me, and then she looks at the congregation. She looks at me, she looks at the congregation, and to my terror, she starts dancing. You know, so there are some people later on. I was thinking, man, I'm in trouble. I'm gonna lose my job and all this. I did get in trouble. Somebody said, you should have told her to come down and all of these things. But instead of doing that, I think by God's grace, He gave me the right thing to do. I used that as a teachable moment, and I said, look. No matter how rambunctious and how much of her daddy's character Ruthie had, kids 3 years of age, they're shy. You have to kind of encourage them and push them to get in front of a crowd. But she didn't care that day. Why? Because that's daddy. Daddy's there, I'm here, I'm going. I know he's going to say okay about that. And I'm going to go. And that day I happened to be preaching about the Father's love, as I'm preaching about right now. You may feel that there are insurmountable barriers between you and God. There may be 100, maybe 1,000 people staring you down saying, you don't deserve to come to God. In the light of all the things that you have done in your past, what gall, what nerve, who do you think you are to come to God? Yet the Father says, come. The Father says, come.